Level 1. The recruit. You are 18. You don't walk into a recruiting office on a whim. You walk in because your dad came home from Desert Storm with a folded flag on the mantle and a silence he never explained. Because your town in eastern Tennessee has one stoplight, one diner, and 0 futures. Because the recruiter shook your hand like you were already somebody. You sign on a Tuesday afternoon. Your mum cries. Your dad nods. 3 weeks later, you're on a bus to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It's July. The air hits you like a wet blanket the second you step off. A drill sergeant is already screaming before your bags hit the ground. His name is Staff Sergeant Doyle. He is 5'9" and feels like 6'5". He does not learn your name for 2 weeks. You are a number. You are a body. You are raw material. Or the barracks hold 60 recruits. Steel bunks, green wool blankets, 1 locker per man. You learn to make your bed with corners so sharp they could cut paper. You learn this because Doyle will flip it if the fold is off by a centimeter. The 3rd time he flips it, everyone drops for push-ups. Not just you, everyone. You learn fast that your mistakes don't belong to you alone here. Wake up is 4:45 a.m. You run 5 miles before breakfast. Breakfast is powdered eggs, limp toast, and watered down orange juice. You eat it like it's steak because by the time you sit down, your body has already burned through whatever you had yesterday. The first week, 3 guys quit. You watch them pack their bags. One of them cries. You don't judge him. You understand him. You just don't move. Week 3, you qualify on the M16A2 rifle. You hit 36 out of 40 targets. Doyle walks past and says nothing. That night, another recruit tells you 36 is expert level. You sleep better than you have in weeks. Week 7, you do the confidence course in full kit. Rope climbs, wall jumps, crawling through mud under live wire. Not simulated, live. Low enough that if you raise your head, it finds you. You keep your head down. That is the first real lesson of the army. Keeping your head down isn't cowardice. Sometimes it's just survival. You graduate basic combat training on a Friday in September. Your mum is in the bleachers wearing a yellow blouse she bought for the occasion. When you march past in formation, you don't break stride, but you find her face in the crowd. You've never stood straighter in your life. Level 2, the private first class. You are 19. Advanced individual training sends you to Fort Benning, Georgia. You're infantry. 11 Bravo. The backbone of the army, they tell you. What they mean is, you will be first in and last out, and everything between will be on your legs and your back. Our IT is harder than basic in the ways that matter. The physical training is more specific, more punishing, and more purposeful. You run with weight now. Rucksack marches, 12 miles, then 16, then 20, in boots that haven't fully broken in, on red Georgia clay that turns to cement when it dries. You stop counting miles and start counting steps. It's the only math that gets you through. You meet Corporal Marcus Webb at Benning. He's from Shreveport, Louisiana. He laughs at everything. He's also the best shot in your platoon, maybe in the battalion. He can group 3 rounds inside a silver dollar at 300 meters. He does it like he's bored. Webb tells you something no instructor will put in a field manual. He says, the army will teach you how to fight. It won't teach you when to think. You got to bring that yourself. You write it down that night. You keep that notebook for the next 20 years. You ship to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina in November of 1998. Jump school comes first. 5 weeks. You exit a C-13 at 1,250 feet above Froning drop zone. The first jump, your brain screams at you. Every instinct says don't step out of a functioning aircraft. You step out anyway. That 3-second freefall before the chute opens is the loneliest and most alive you have ever felt. You earn your jump wings and sew them on yourself. The way your grandfather sewed on his Navy rating badges 40 years before. Then Kosovo happens. It's 1999. The 82nd deploys as part of NATO's stabilization force. You're not in combat. You're maintaining a buffer, standing checkpoints, watching, waiting. Displaced families move through your sector every day, carrying everything they own in 2 bags. Children who don't speak. Men who don't make eye contact. One afternoon, an old man tries to hand you a loaf of bread through a checkpoint fence. Your orders say no contact. You follow orders. He leaves the bread on the post and walks away. You think about that bread for longer than you'd like to admit. You re-enlist without being asked. Level 3. The Sergeant. You are 24. You are back at Fort Bragg when the towers fall. September 11th, 2001. You watch it on a television in the day room with 40 other soldiers. Noon speaks for a long time. Then someone says, "We're going." He's right. By 2002, you're in Kandahar province, sleeping in a forward operating base that was a Soviet airstrip 20 years ago. The mountains in the distance are brown and permanent and indifferent to everything happening at their feet. You lead a 9-man fire team. Sergeant is not a rank you were handed. It was earned by being the soldier others followed before anyone told them to. Your interpreter's name is Dawood. He is 22 years old, trying to get his younger sister into school. He carries no weapon and walks in front of you like the ground isn't dangerous. You trust him more than most people with rank insignia. 3 months in, your team clears a compound on the edge of a dry riverbed at 0430. 2 rooms are empty. The third has a man who swings a rifle toward your point man before you can call out. You make a decision in less than 1 second. Afterward, the debrief is clinical. Threat neutralized. Rules of engagement followed. Justified. But clinical doesn't mean clean. You write the report. You sign it. You go back to your bunk and stare at the ceiling until the base wakes up around you. Webb sends you a letter from Bragg. He made staff sergeant. He asked how you're doing. You write back, "I'm good." You mean, "I'm still here." You complete 2 rotations in Afghanistan by 2004. You return with a combat infantryman badge, an Army Commendation Medal with V device, and a quietness that wasn't there before. Your company commander, Captain Elise Hargrove, pulls you aside before your leave begins. She says you should put in for officer candidate school. You think about it for 4 days. Then you apply. Before we go further, if you've made it this far, comment what you want next. Hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We upload every single day. Level 4. The Lieutenant. You are 26. Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning is 12 weeks of organized pressure. They don't break you here. They already know you won't break. What they're testing is how you lead when you're exhausted, when information is incomplete, when 2 bad options are the only options on the table. You graduate in the top 15% of your class. Your mother pins the gold bar on your shoulder. Her hands shake slightly. You let them. You are assigned to the 1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley, Kansas, the big red one. By 2006, you're in Al-Anbar province, west of Baghdad. Ramadi is the most contested city in Iraq at this moment. The insurgency is not abstract here. It is in the walls, in the roads, in the faces of men who haven't decided yet which side they're on. You command a platoon of 32 soldiers. Average age, 21. You are 26 and responsible for bringing all 32 of them home. One morning in April, your convoy hits a pressure plate IED on Route Mobile, 2 kilometers outside Ramadi. The MRAP absorbs most of it, but your gunner, Specialist Danny Okafor from Columbus, Ohio, takes shrapnel across his left arm and shoulder. He's conscious. He's screaming. That's actually a good sign. You get him medevaced in 18 minutes. He loses partial use of 2 fingers. He is alive. He makes it home. At his discharge ceremony, 2 years later, he names his first son Daniel Marcus, the middle name after Webb, who you told him about once on a night patrol. You never forget that. You visit Okafor once, stateside, 2 years after you both come home. You sit in his kitchen in Columbus. His wife makes coffee. His daughter is asleep in the next room. He shows you his hand, the 2 fingers that don't close all the way anymore. He says, "Still got the other 8. He's laughing when he says it. That matters more than you can explain. By the end of your Iraq rotation, you have learned something the Army teaches only through experience. Planning is essential. Plans are temporary. The gap between the two is where leaders are actually made." Your battalion commander writes in your evaluation, "Demonstrates uncommon composure under fire, ready for increased responsibility." You are promoted to first lieutenant, then captain within 3 years. Level 5, the captain. You are 30. You command Alpha Company, 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment, 140 soldiers. You are responsible not just for their performance in the field, but for their housing, their pay, their families, and their careers. The Army is not just a fighting force. It is a community. Communities require more than tactics. You're back in Afghanistan in 2010, this time in Kunar Province. The terrain is nothing like Kandahar. Mountains everywhere. Valleys that funnel sound and hide everything. You study the history. You read about the British campaigns in the 1840s, as the Soviet occupation in the 1980s, the tribal dynamics that predate modern borders. Your soldiers ask why you read so much. You tell them, "Because the man who shot at us today has a grandfather who shot at someone else in this same valley. If you don't know the valley, you don't know the fight." One of your junior officers, Lieutenant Karlan Nguyen, learns conversational Pashto in 4 months. The intelligence she builds through local relationships saves your company from 2 ambushes you never see on any map. You put her in for a commendation. It gets approved. Near the Pech River, you meet with a village elder named Hamdullah. Dawood, your old interpreter from 2002, is translating for a colleague across the courtyard. 8 years and 1,000 miles of the same war. You nod at each other. No words needed. The elder tells you his village wants schools, not soldiers. He says it without anger, with the patience of a man who has said it before and expects to be ignored again. You write it in your notebook. You include it in your after-action report. It doesn't change policy, but you write it anyway. You attend the Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, graduate school with uniforms. You earn a master's degree in military arts and science and leave with a clearer understanding of what you don't yet know. That understanding is more valuable than the degree. Level 6, the Major. You are 35. You are assigned to the Pentagon. Army G3, the Operations Directorate. 17 miles of corridors. 23,000 people. A city that runs the largest military on Earth. What your job is contingency planning. Scenarios that may never happen and must be ready if they do. You work with Air Force colonels, Navy commanders, and Defense Intelligence Agency analysts. Nothing moves fast. You are frustrated for the first 6 months. You were trained to act. Here you analyze. You brief. You revise. You brief again. Then, slowly, you understand. A bad decision made at this table ripples outward to every forward operating base, every convoy, every fire team in every theater. The soldiers you led in Ramadi and Kunar, their equivalents are still out there. What happens in this building determines what they face. You stop being frustrated. You start being precise. You work on Pacific contingency planning. You study Chinese military doctrine, North Korean force structure, logistics chains across island chains. You brief 3-star generals who ask sharp questions and have no patience for vague answers. A brigadier general named Patricia Odom tells you once, "Half the people in this building are smart. Very few of them are clear. You're both. Don't waste it." You don't. You are promoted to lieutenant colonel at 38, ahead of your peer group by 18 months. Level 7, the lieutenant colonel. You are 38. You command a battalion, 800 soldiers at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, home of the 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles. This is the last time a senior officer is close enough to smell the mud, to know every sergeant major by name, to feel the institution in a personal rather than institutional way. You deploy to Romania in 2019. NATO's enhanced forward presence. The mission is deterrence, and 50 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Russian military activity has been escalating for 5 years. You watch, report, and maintain readiness. One evening on a ridge outside Constanza, your sergeant major looks east across the Black Sea and asks, "You think they'll actually come?" You say, "Doesn't matter. We act like they will. That's the job." He nods. He's seen more than you. His nod means something. In 2022, Russia invades Ukraine. You are stateside when it begins. Watching terrain you stood in 3 years earlier swallow columns of tanks and infantry. You think about that ridge. You think about his question. You brief congressional staffers on army readiness. You use clear language. You don't speculate. A staffer tells your escort officer afterward, "That colonel didn't try to impress us, or he just informed us." It's the best professional compliment you've received in years. Selection for colonel isn't just about performance, it's about alignment. The army is deciding whether your judgment can be trusted at a level where mistakes outlast careers. Your personnel file is thick. Your evaluations are consistent. Your record is clean. Yours is trusted. For now. Level 8. The colonel. You are 43. You command a brigade, 5,000 soldiers. Your decisions move equipment worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Your signature authorizes training cycles, deployment certifications, and career-altering evaluations. Your driver, Specialist Torres, is 20 years old and from El Paso. He pays attention to everything and says very little. You tell him once. The best thing you can do right now is watch how people make decisions and file it away. He looks at you in the rearview mirror and nods. You wonder if someone said that to you once, or if you learned it the hard way. Your brigade deploys to the Indo-Pacific in 2024. The Pacific is not Iraq. It is not Afghanistan. There are no checkpoints, no interpreters, no compounds at 0430. The threat here is geometry. Distances measured in thousands of miles. Logistics chains that stretch across open ocean. And an adversary that has studied American doctrine longer than most of your soldiers have been alive. You study back. In Okinawa, a miscommunication during a command post exercise with South Korean and Japanese forces produces a simulated fratricide event. The after-action review is brutal. Or you sit through it without deflecting. You take your share of the blame in front of your counterparts. Your South Korean opposite number, Colonel Kim Jae-won, shakes your hand afterward and says, "A commander who admits error in front of his allies is trustworthy. I will work with you again." You file that next to Webb's advice from 1998. You are selected for the Army War College at Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania. Grand strategy, civil-military relations, the limits of military force. You write a thesis on logistics vulnerabilities in contested Pacific environments. 3 members of the Joint Chiefs send comments through official channels. You understand what that means. Level 9. The Brigadier General. You are 49. 1 star. Your promotion ceremony is at the Pentagon. Your mother is in the front row. She is 71 years old, as she is wearing yellow again. When the Chief of Staff ends the star on your shoulder, you think about Fort Jackson in July, about powdered eggs and green wool blankets and Doyle's voice at 4:45 in the morning, about Dawood walking unarmed through dangerous ground, about Danny Okafor, alive, somewhere in Ohio, about a loaf of bread on a checkpoint post in Kosovo. You think about all of it for exactly the length of time it takes to pin a star. Then you move forward. You are assigned as Deputy Commanding General for Operations at United States Army Pacific, Fort Shafter, Hawaii. 36 countries, the largest geographic command on Earth. The most strategically consequential region of this century. You work for a 2-star general named Marcus Webb. That Marcus Webb, from Shreveport, still the best shot in any room, still laughing at things, always still thinking when others are reacting. On your first day, he tells you, you know how to fight, you know how to lead. Now learn how to be patient in a way that actually costs you something. That's the job at this level. You write it down. Same notebook, different page. Your days are no longer about direct command. They are about shaping the environment in which command happens. You plant things you will not harvest. That is the nature of this level. One afternoon at Camp Smith, 2 colonels are arguing in front of flag officers over resource allocation. You let them go for 90 seconds. Then you say, here's the constraint. Here's the decision point. Here's what I need from each directorate by Thursday. The room moves forward. Your aide-de-camp, Captain Rivera, walks out with you and asks, how did you know when to step in? You say, 90 seconds is usually enough time to hear the real problem inside the stated one. He writes it down. You notice. You say nothing. Level 10, the Major General. You are 53, 2 stars. You command United States Army Forces Command, FORSCOM, responsible for the training, readiness, and deployment of over 750,000 active, reserve, and National Guard soldiers across the continental United States. You sit in a chair where decisions affect every level you have ever occupied. The recruit freezing at Fort Jackson, the sergeant on a Kandahar rooftop, the lieutenant watching a convoy burn en route Mobile, the colonel sitting through a brutal after-action review in Okinawa. You remember all of them because you were all of them. Your mornings begin at 0500, not because anyone requires it. 35 years of 4:45 a.m. have rewired you permanently. You run 3 miles. You read 2 intelligence summaries. You drink 1 cup of coffee, black, the way Doyle drank it, which you noticed once at 18 and never forgot. The briefings here have a different texture. Numbers are larger. Timelines longer. A procurement decision made today shapes a soldier's equipment in 2035. A readiness gap identified now may be the difference between deterrence and miscalculation in a theater that doesn't yet have a name. You are responsible for all of it. There are mornings when the weight of that is tangible. Not crushing, just present. Like a rucksack you've worn so long you've forgotten you're wearing it. You carry it anyway. That is what this level asks of you. Not brilliance, not invincibility. It's just the willingness to carry it and keep moving. You testify before the Senate Armed Services Committee in the spring. 12 senators. Cameras. Some questions are good. Some are political. Some are designed to produce soundbite rather than an answer. You give answers anyway. Clear ones. 35 years of service have taught you that clarity is not a style. It is a discipline. One senator asks, General, what does it take to build the kind of army that wins the wars of the next 20 years? You pause. Not because you don't know, because the real answer is human. It started on a bus to Fort Jackson in July when you were 18 and had nothing figured out. You say, Senator, it starts with a young person who decides that something bigger than themselves is worth showing up for. Everything we build depends on that decision being made every year by people we've never met, in towns we'll never visit. Our job is to make sure that when they show up, we're worthy of them. The room is quiet for a moment. You mean every word. You know now what you didn't know at 18. Rank is not power. It is responsibility with a title attached. The soldiers you commanded were always the point of the thing. Not the missions, not the medals, not the briefings in rooms with flags. Leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room. You learned that from Doyle, who never raised his voice above the volume required to be heard. It's not about being the most decorated, because the most decorated man in your battalion in Kandahar came home and never once talked about it. It's not about the rank itself. You have watched generals humiliate enlisted soldiers and staff sergeants hold entire platoons together with nothing but quiet consistency. There are days when two officers come to you with the same problem and opposite solutions, and both of them are correct, and you have to choose anyway. Knowing you might be wrong, knowing the cost of being wrong is borne by people who trust you with their lives and their careers. Those are the days you earn the stars. The real work of this army happens below your level. It always has. It always will. There's a plaque on the wall of your office at ForceCom. You had it made from a line in a notebook you've carried since 1998. It reads, "The Army will teach you how to fight. It won't teach you when to think. You got to bring that yourself." Marcus Webb, Corporal, 82nd Airborne, Fort Benning, Georgia, 1998. He has 2 stars now. Some things don't change. You arrived at this level not by being the loudest or the most visible. You arrived by being reliable when reliability was hard, honest when honesty was costly, and present when presence required sacrifice. The bus to Fort Jackson left 35 years ago. You never stopped riding it.